Hey folks, we're back in the kitchen today. We're going to make a cabbage soup. And it's not going to be the vegetarian version that you're probably used to. We're going to put a little meat in ours. So stick around, we'll show you how to make it. We haven't made it in a while. Thought it'd be time. So let's get started. As with any soup, we're going to start with our big pot here. We've got a couple tablespoons of good olive oil in there. We're going to put our trinity in there, which is carrots, onions, and celery. If you remember the celery and the onions we didn't get to last year in the garden, we chopped it all up and froze it. And this is the reason why, because we can use it in dishes like this. Instead of all that stuff going to waste because you didn't get to it, put it in the freezer. You can use it all year long. While we're sauteing our vegetables, we'll put a little salt in there, maybe about a half a teaspoon. I know this doesn't look like salt, but it's a Redmond's Chef's Blend salt that we really enjoy. And then we're going to put about a quarter teaspoon of black pepper in the mix. And then about a teaspoon of dry thyme. Thyme is about the best thing you can put in any soup or stew. I've always told you people here on this channel that if you're not real familiar with herbs, start out with thyme. It's a very versatile herb. You can put it in almost anything. It adds a real earthy flavor that sometimes your recipes are missing. So that heat's going to wake up that thyme and all the other spices, and the salt's going to help some of the liquids come out of the vegetables. So we'll come back with the next installment here in a little bit once these vegetables soften up a little bit. We grow all of our own herbs out here in the garden, and then we dry them, and then we crush them, and we use them all winter long. We don't use a lot of them fresh because it's just so much more convenient to use them dry, and we always have dry left over that we need to use up when we have the fresh stuff in the garden. Now there's certain things that you obviously want to use fresh, like basil, but the dry is working really good for us. Remember, if you're using dry, you would use only 1/3 of what you would use if you were using fresh. So if a recipe called for a tablespoon of, say, fresh thyme or fresh rosemary, whatever, you would only use a teaspoon of the dry stuff. Now that the vegetables have cooked for a little bit, we've added 1 full pound of ground beef. We're using a lean ground beef. You could cook your ground beef separately and drain the fat off. However, this lean ground beef isn't going to have a lot of fat, and we're just going to leave it in the mix. It adds a lot of flavor. So we'll get this chopped up, we'll get it all brown, and then we'll go with the next ingredients. Now once you know how to start soup with your oil and your carrots, celery, and onions, some chicken stock or whatever stock you're going to use, you can go anywhere you want with the meat. You can use any meat you want in here. You can use even like shrimp or something like that. Tofu if you're a vegetarian. If I wasn't going to use the meat in this dish, I would add some potatoes to give it a little more body, but that would be like your vegetarian version. The starch we're going to use in this soup obviously is the cabbage. You could go with noodles, you could go with anything. You could get for your meat, you could get a rotisserie chicken and debone your chicken and put your chicken in here and get some noodles. You'd have a really good chicken noodle soup. Once you know how to make the basis of soup, you can go absolutely crazy with soup. Okay, our hamburger is all browned. Next into the party is a can of fire roasted tomatoes. Regular size can, I believe they're 15 ounces. We're going to use a can of any kind of bean you want. We're using the white beans. That kind of goes with the dish that we're doing. and drain your can of white beans. And then remember that chicken stock we made the other day that we had a quart jar left of? All of that's going in there. So now that's all going to come back to a simmer. That would make a good soup just as is. Once you taste it for the seasoning. But we're going to add the star of the show, which is cabbage. So we're going to get like a medium head of cabbage and chop it up. Alright, we're waiting for this to come to a simmer. While we're waiting, we're going to add about 4 cloves worth of crushed garlic. And then 2 tablespoons of white vinegar. That's going to brighten up your soup a little bit. You always want a little acid. You could use lemon juice. You could use lime juice. You could use some dry white wine if you wanted to. But we're using white vinegar. Also, while we're waiting, we chopped up our cabbage. You just cut the core out of it, peel the first couple outside leaves off. Just a rough chop. As soon as that simmers, we'll throw in all this cabbage. Now you might think that's a lot of cabbage for this pot, but the cabbage, when you cook it down, cooks down to almost nothing, so it won't be too much when we're all done. Got our cabbage in. We're going to throw the lid on there. That'll help steamy it, get it all steamy in there and help that cabbage break down. We're boiling pretty good now. The cabbage is starting to break down. We've been cooking on high this whole time, but now that we're simmering after the cabbage is put in, we've turned it down to just a low simmer because we want that to cook slower. We don't want anything to burn on the bottom. Now, if you ever feel when you taste your soup that it needs a little more flavor, a little more salt or whatever, instead of using just plain salt, you can use chicken bouillon, which adds a lot more flavor, but there's a lot of sodium in this, so you can get your salt out of it too. But that's a soup maker's trick right there. The other one is, say you're not using meat in your soup, you can put a half a teaspoon of this stuff in their kitchen bouquet, and it'll give you a lot more body to your soup also. This is just boiled down vegetables. They cook it down into like a syrup almost, and it's all brown and really good. Adds a good body to your soup. Okay, we've been simmering for about an hour. You want to go till your cabbage is nice and tender. You don't want it firm at all. So we're ready to serve this up. It needs to cool off a little bit. So we'll put it in a shallower dish so we can eat sooner. Okay, there it is. Doesn't that look delicious? We're going to dig into that. Y'all need to make this. Okay, yet another recipe in the books. Very, very good soup. I hope you try it. And I hope you start making soup. Like I said, you can go crazy once you know how to make soup. You can make any soup you want. This is just one version. So, till next time, stay safe, stay healthy. We love you guys. Come back and see us here at Markelly Farm.